Tractor.
Tractor.
Tractor-trailer.
Tractor-trailer.
Trad.
Trad.
Trade.
Trade.
There has been a marked increase in trade between East and West.
International trade agreements.
Unfair trade practices. Trade in ivory has been banned since 1990.
Working on Saturdays is usual in the retail trade. A lot of pubs nowadays do most of their trade at lunchtimes. Souvenir shops rely mainly on passing trade. Let's make a trade. My frisbee for your baseball. The Celtics star demanded a trade after talks with management broke down. I could get Ron to look at your car for you. He works in the trade.
Brian insisted that his sons learn a trade.
My grandfather was a plumber by trade.
India began trading with Europe in the 15th and 16th centuries.
The company trades in silk, tea and other items.
They had to travel into town to trade the produce from their farm.
The firm now trades under the name Lansky and Weber.
Over 1 million shares were traded today.
We traded necklaces. I wouldn't mind trading jobs with her. I'll trade you my camera for your drill.
Many of their customers are trading down to cheaper cigarettes.
He traded his old car in for a new model.
Companies are under pressure to trade off price stability for short-term gains.
If you ask me, they're just trading on Sam's good nature. It also encourages existing homeowners to trade up to larger accommodation.
Trade balance.
Trade balance.
Trade deficit.
Trade deficit.
Trade discount.
Trade discount.
Trade fair.
Trade fair.
Trade gap.
Trade gap.
Trade-in.
Trade-in.
Are you going to give your Ford as a trade-in? The trade-in value is roughly $3,000.
Trademark.
Trademark.
The striped T-shirt became the comedian's trademark.
Trade name.
Trade name.
Trade-off.
Trade-off.
There has to be a trade-off between quality and quantity if we want to keep prices low.
Trade price.
Trade price.
Trader.
Trader.
A small trader who sells hats in Oxford. To the surprise of many Wall Street traders, the dollar rose yesterday.
Trade route.
Trade route.
Ancient trade routes between Europe and Asia. Trade school.
Trade school.
Trade secret.
Trade secret.
The Coca-Cola formula is a well-kept trade secret. Could you give me the recipe for that coq au vin, or is it a trade secret?
Trade show.
Trade show.
Tradesman.
Tradesman.
Tradespeople.
Tradespeople.
Trade surplus.
Trade surplus.
Trade union.
Trade union.
Trade wind.
Trade wind.
Trading.
Trading.
Shares dropped 10% in heavy trading.
Trading estate.
Trading estate.
Trading partner.
Trading partner.
Trading post.
Trading post.
A remote trading post in the Yukon.
Tradition.
Tradition.
The traditions of Southeast Asia.
The tradition that the eldest son inherits the property.
By tradition, it's the bride's parents who pay for the wedding.
His paintings are very much in the tradition of Picasso and Matisse.
Traditional.
Traditional.
Traditional Italian cooking. A traditional Irish folk song. A traditional method of brewing beer. It is traditional not to eat meat on Good Friday.
He has a traditional view of women.
I went to a very traditional school.
Traditional family values.
A traditional way of life.
Traditionalism.
Traditionalism.
Traditionalist.
Traditionalist.
Traditionally.
Traditionally.
More women are entering traditionally male jobs. The colour black is traditionally associated with mourning.
Traditionally, everything is carried in baskets on the head or shoulders.
Traduce.
Traduce.
Traffic.
Traffic.
There wasn't much traffic on the roads.
The sound of the traffic kept me awake.
Air traffic control.
The problems of air traffic congestion in Europe.
Most long-distance traffic of heavy goods is done by ships.
Drugs traffic.
Traffic in firearms.
He had made a fortune by trafficking young women. Lewis was found guilty of trafficking in drugs.
Traffic calming.
Traffic calming.
Traffic calming measures have been introduced.
Traffic circle.
Traffic circle.
Traffic cone.
Traffic cone.
Traffic cop.
Traffic cop.
Traffic court.
Traffic court.
Traffic island.
Traffic island.
Traffic jam.
Traffic jam.
We were stuck in a traffic jam for 2 hours.
Trafficker.
Trafficker.
Trafficking.
Trafficking.
Drug trafficking.
Human trafficking.
Traffic lights.
Traffic lights.
Traffic school.
Traffic school.
Traffic stopper. Traffic stopper. This yellow and purple dress is a real traffic stopper.
Traffic warden.
Traffic warden.
Tragedian.
Tragedian.
Tragedy.
Tragedy.
The tragedy happened as they were returning home from a night out. Tragedy struck the family when their 2-year-old son was killed in an accident.
It's a tragedy to see so much talent going to waste.
Hamlet is one of Shakespeare's best-known tragedies.
An actor specializing in tragedy. Tragic.
Tragic.
The parents were not to blame for the tragic death of their son.
Lillian Board's death at 22 was a tragic loss for British athletics.
A great tragic actor.
Tragically.
Tragically.
She was tragically killed in a car accident. Tragically, her dancing career ended only 6 months later.
He died when a parachute jump went tragically wrong.
Tragicomedy.
Tragicomedy.
Trail.
Trail.
A plane trailing a banner was circling overhead.
She walked slowly along the path, her skirt trailing in the mud.
Reese was leaning out of the boat, trailing his hand through the water.
Susie trailed along behind her parents. We spent the afternoon trailing around the shops.
The Democratic candidate is still trailing in the opinion polls. Manchester United were trailing by 2-1.
He trailed in last after a disastrous race.
Police trailed the gang for several days. She trailed off, silenced by the look Chris gave her.
The trail led over Boulder Pass before descending to a lake. A trail of wet footprints. The bus left a trail of black smoke behind it.
The typhoon left a trail of devastation. He left a trail of broken hearts and broken promises.
The hunters lost the tiger's trail in the middle of the jungle.
Police tracked him to Valencia, and there the trail went cold.
Industrial spies on the trail of technological secrets. Police believe they are hot on the trail of a drug smuggling gang.
A town on the tourist trail.
Politicians on the campaign trail.
New players should put the team back on the winning trail.
Trailblazer.
Trailblazer.
A trailblazer in the field of medical research.
Trailer.
Trailer.
Trailer park.
Trailer park.
Trailer trash.
Trailer trash. Trailing.
Trailing.
Train.
Train.
The train to Munich.
We went all the way to Inverness by train.
The decision set off a train of events which led to his resignation.
The phone interrupted my train of thought.
I've lost my train of thought.
A decision that brought disaster in its train.
Plans to modernize have been set in train.
A camel train.
A wedding dress with a long train.
All staff will be trained in customer service skills.
She's training to be a doctor. Employees are trained to deal with emergency situations. Nadia trained as a singer.
A highly trained workforce.
Trained staff will be available to deal with your queries. Trained staff will be available to deal with your queries.
A well-trained puppy.
These dogs are trained to detect drugs.
Brenda spends 2 hours a day training for the marathon.
She trained her binoculars on the bird.
You can train your mind to relax.
To the trained eye, the difference between these flowers is obvious.
Trainee.
Trainee.
The trainees start next week.
A trainee hairdresser.
Trainer.
Trainer.
A racehorse trainer.
Training.
Training.
On the course, we receive training in every aspect of the job.
Police drivers have to undergo intensive training. A rigorous training session.
On-the-job training will be supplemented by classroom lectures.
The shop opens late on Fridays because of staff training.
Leslie does weight training twice a week.
She's in training for the Olympics.
Train spotter.
Train spotter.
Train station.
Train station.
Train wreck.
Train wreck. My life is a train wreck.
Traipse.
Traipse.
I've been traipsing around the shops all morning.
Trait.
Trait.
A mental illness associated with particular personality traits.
Traitor.
Traitor.
A traitor to the cause of women's rights.
A politician who turned traitor to the government.
Traitorous.
Traitorous.
Trajectory.
Trajectory.
The decision was certain to affect the trajectory of French politics for some time to come.
Tram.
Tram.
Tram lines.
Tram lines.
Trammel.
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 Tramp.
Tramp.
A long tramp through the snow.
The steady tramp of soldiers' feet.
He tramped the streets looking for work.
The walk involved tramping through mud.
Trample.
Trample.
There was a small fence to stop people trampling on the flowers.
The children were in danger of being trampled underfoot in the crowd. Several people were nearly trampled to death in the rush to get out.
Don't let people trample all over you.
Their interests and rights had been trampled underfoot.
Trampoline.
Trampoline.
Trampolining.
Trampolining.
Trance.
Trance.
She went into a deep, hypnotic trance.
What's the matter with you? You've been in a trance all day.
Tranche. Tranche. The second tranche of the loan would be repaid over 3 years.
Tranny.
Tranny.
Tranquil.
Tranquil.
A small tranquil village.
The tranquility of the Tuscan countryside.
Tranquilize.
Tranquilize.
Tranquilizer.
Tranquilizer.
Trance.
Trans.
Transatlantic flights.
The Trans-Siberian Railway.
Transracial fostering.
He's been transformed by the experience. Transact.
Transact.
Most deals are transacted over the phone.
Transatlantic.
Transatlantic.
Transatlantic flights.
A transatlantic agreement.
One of America's transatlantic military bases.
Transceiver.
Transceiver.
Transcend.
Transcend.
The desire for peace transcended political differences.
Transcendent.
Transcendent.
The transcendent genius of Mozart.
Transcendental.
Transcendental.
Transcendentalism.
Transcendentalism.
Transcendental meditation.
Transcendental meditation.
Transcontinental.
Transcontinental.
A transcontinental railway.
Transcribe.
Transcribe.
A secretary transcribed the witnesses' statements.
He had been asked to transcribe an ancient manuscript.
The book has been transcribed into Braille. A piece transcribed for piano.
Transcript.
Transcript.
A transcript of the tapes was presented in court.
Transcription.
Transcription.
Pronunciation is shown by a system of phonetic transcription.
Transept.
Transept.
Transfer.
Transfer. Swad transferred from MI6 to the security service.
They're transferring him to a special unit at Great Ormond Street Hospital.
You'll be transferred to the Birmingham office.
The exhibition transfers to York City Art Gallery on the 23rd of January.
Transfer the meat to warm plates.
He was transferred for a fee of £8 million.
Ideas that work well in one school often don't transfer well to another. Ideas that work well in one school often don't transfer well to another.
The aging president is preparing to transfer power to his son.
Hold on one moment while I transfer your call.
Transfer the files onto a memory stick.
It is unlikely that the disease will be transferred from animals to humans.
Transferable skills.
The transfer of assets within a group of companies. Penny's applied for a transfer to head office.
Electronic data transfer.
The transfer of power to a civilian government.
Getting there often means a couple of transfers on a bus line.
Transference.
Transference.
The transference of skills acquired at school to the workplace.
Transfer fee.
Transfer fee.
Transfer list.
Transfer list.
Transfigure.
Transfigure.
Her face was transfigured with joy.
Transfix.
Transfix.
Transfixed.
Transfixed.
For a moment she stood transfixed in the doorway.
Transform.
Transform.
Increased population has transformed the landscape. The movie transformed her almost overnight from an unknown schoolgirl into a megastar.
Transformation.
Transformation.
In recent years, the movie industry has undergone a dramatic transformation.
The gradual transformation from woodland to farmland.
What leads to the transformation of one economic system to another?
Transformer.
Transformer.
Transfusion.
Transfusion.
A blood transfusion saved his life.
The mayor has promised a transfusion of $8 million in redevelopment funds.
Transgender.
Transgender.
The transgender community. Transgender issues.
Transgenic.
Transgenic.
Transgenic mice.
Transgress.
Transgress.
Orton's plays transgress accepted social norms.
Transient.
Transient.
Transient fashions.
A transient population.
Transistor.
Transistor.
Transistor radio.
Transistor radio.
Transit.
Transit.
Baggage that is lost or damaged in transit. Transit by air or sea.
Rapid transit networks.
Promises to improve public transit. Transit camp.
Transit camp.
Transition.
Transition.
The smooth transition from full-time work to full retirement.
Making the transition from youth to adulthood can be very painful. A society that is in transition.
The period of transition to full democracy.
He will transition to his new role next month. Transitional.
Transitional.
A transitional period during the switch to the euro.
Transitive.
Transitive.
Transit lounge.
Transit lounge.
Transitory.
Transitory.
Transit visa.
Transit visa.
Translate.
Translate.
Translation.
Translation.
A new translation of the Bible.
A literal translation from Arabic.
She read the letter and gave us a rough translation.
I've only read Madame Bovary in translation. Much of the book's humour has been lost in translation.
Translator.
Translator.
Transliterate.
Transliterate.
Translucent.
Translucent.
Blue veins showed through her translucent skin.
Transmigration.
Transmigration.
Transmission.
Transmission.
Worldwide data transmission. The transmission of disease.
A live transmission of the tennis championship.
Transmit.
Transmit.
The U.S. Open will be transmitted live via satellite.
The system transmits information over digital phone lines. Mathematical knowledge is transmitted from teacher to student.
Transmitter.
Transmitter.
What is the main transmitter of the virus?
Transmogrify.
Transmogrify.
Transmute.
Transmute.
Transnational.
Transnational.
Transnational corporations.
Transom.
Transom.
Transparency.
Transparency.
Transparent.
Transparent.
A transparent plastic container.
The way the system works will be transparent to the user.
Transperson.
Transperson.
Transphobic.
Transphobic.
Transpiration.
Transpiration.
Transpire.
Transpire.
It now transpires that he kept all the money for himself. Exactly what transpired remains unknown. Transplant.
Transplant.
Heart transplant surgery.
A bone marrow transplant.
Transponder.
Transponder.
Transport.
Transport. Improved rail transport is essential for business. Commuters who travel on public transport.
It's easier to get to the college if you have your own transport. Horses were the only means of transport.
Canals were used for the transport of goods.
Trucks used for transporting oil.
The statue was transported to London.
One look and I was transported back to childhood.
Transportation.
Transportation.
The city needs to improve its public transportation. People need to get out of their cars and use other modes of transportation.
The transportation of dangerous chemicals by road.
Transport cafe. Transporter.
Transporter.
Transport plane.
Transport plane.
Transport ship.
Transport ship.
Transpose.
Transpose.
Transputer.
Transputer.
Transsexual.
Transsexual.
Transubstantiation.
Transubstantiation.